Today we are here to discuss Karvi. This is a recent pickup that I got at our friendly local game store, but it guess came out somewhere in mid-February because I saw it at Capstone store when we went on our anniversary up to
Cincinnati. It's a 2023 release.
Well, maybe in like SN
Wherever,
or
yeah,
could
wherever
be,
it came out.
but it just came to hit the States
Yeah.
like in February. So I waited until we got it back home, pick it up at our friendly local game store because they, always good to me.
Right.
So not the Capstone store wasn't good either. I mean, it actually was really cool. But
Yeah.
anyway, Rob, what can you tell us about this game?
Before I do, though.
Oh yes, before he does, we
That's
don't
right.
want to share any, divulge any secret information unless you're part of the secret
That's
society.
right. And how do you join that?
Yeah, you hit that subscribe
That's
button
right.
and the notification bell down there so you can follow along on all of our exploits and hijinks throughout the
Secret
world
or
of
otherwise.
gaming. Yes.
Yes. All right, so Karvi is a 2023 release. Overall rank is 5,798 on the Geek, rated 7.5. Plays 2 to 4 people in 120 to 180 minutes. So big range there. Ages 12 and up. I'm sorry for butchering the name, but designed by Torje Jean, maybe? Art by Ingram Shell, published by Hans and Gluck. MSRP is $74.99, but Card House and Miniature Market had it for $59.99. Noble Knight had it at $67.95. Nothing on Board Game for a price, so that's kind of odd. So,
And I think if they change the name officially from Board Game Geek to The Geek,
yeah,
you should get a commission.
you think so?
I think so.
I think so too.
It'll be personally you that makes
Yeah,
it happen.
that's right. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about what you get in the box. So it actually has some pretty cool construction. You built
Yeah.
these little ships.
And that's saying a lot. If Randy likes it, it's saying it's pretty cool because usually he hates
I don't
constructing
like art
stuff.
projects, but this was not a bad one, and it held together really well.
Yeah, it does.
So you make these little
Ships,
little
little
boats.
Viking ships.
Yeah, Viking boats that you're pedaling, although there's no sail on them. But they do have the pole for the sail, which is actually used to put rations on, which I thought was pretty clever.
Yeah.
And of course, the rations quickly became referred to as bagels and donuts, because
yeah.
they look
That's
kind of
what
like
they kind
that.
of look like it.
The board is a decent sized board that has kind of the islands that you can hit and what you get when you travel along.
And it's a quad fold, which is pretty good because there's no bowing.
Yeah, and it's two-sided, so depending on player count, you
Yeah.
have this bigger or smaller area. You also have a personal player board. It's not inlaid, but it doesn't really have to be. It serves its function pretty well. It's got all the upgrades that you can do to your board on it, detailed. There's an auxiliary board that controls your movement, and it is much like the patchwork in a lot of other games now, where whoever's furthest behind in the pecking order gets to go first.
Right.
So the turn order will change throughout the game depending on how far you move on your turn around the board. Then you've got cards. The cards are very thin. That was my biggest complaint. You're going to want to sleeve these, but they do have a nice linen finish on them. But they will bend pretty quick.
And lots of cardboard.
Yeah, lots of cardboard and some wooden-shaped bits. So you have pelts that look like pelts, and you have gold bars that are painted gold, and silver. It says
We call
silver.
it silver coin.
Yeah, but yeah, they look like stones in some of the artwork, but
Yeah.
these are just wooden painted silver. You have dice, which are custom with little horns of plenty on them that are supposed to hold your beer. Hold my beer. So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing outstanding. All the wooden meeples are custom shaped for towers
buildings
and houses.
Yeah.
They look, and they didn't just take like the Monopoly houses. They put
No.
like little wooden thatching at the top to make it look like it's a old time.
Like a hut,
Yeah.
and I think these are probably be a longhouse, is what they're supposed to, since it's a Viking themed game.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think that everything's done decent. I mean, nothing's outstanding and going to wow you, but
But it's not bad either.
Yeah.
It's
And-
just kind of middle of the road. And kind of gives you a late 90s vibe as far as the old
those
Euro
Vikings
games.
from the late 90s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the older Euro games kind of gives you that vibe. Except for the board looks a lot better than the older
Yeah, I
games.
do like the patterns on
Yeah.
the board and everything. And the one thing we didn't mention is instead of having to need all those plastic baggies,
They give
they
you cut
actually gave you
boxes.
little cut boxes. You did have to assemble these. These were super easy to assemble. You just punched them out of the sheet and
Fold them. Yeah.
So they were super easy to assemble. Yeah, I think, actually, I'm not even sure if they had a punch out, but you just had to fold them and assemble them.
Right.
And everything does fit back in the box with them, so that's nice. I think everything is okay. It's not bad. I'm going to probably give it a 7. I don't think there's anything outstanding, but it's,
It's
good
definitely,
quality.
yeah. I think 7's a good score.
Especially considering it's a retail purchase. I mean, it's not a deluxeified or what have you. I should point out that the movement board around, as far as like the patchwork movement, as we mentioned, it's dual layered, so you can flip it, not dual layered, but two-sided, so each component can be flipped, so you can have different
A little variety. Yeah.
as far as the paths go from game to game, which I thought was pretty nice. All right, so let's talk about the theme. So you are Vikings, and you're exploring and pillaging and trading. And
You might be pillaging, but you're not pillaging each other.
right, it's not an attacky type
Yeah.
game. You're basically, you've got settlements that you're fighting against, and they give you the strength levels, and you've got to have enough strength to overcome it, and then you're going to take some hits automatically that you know about. So it's no surprises. It's definitely not a dudes on a map game.
No.
This is a straight up Euro.
Yeah, the only element of jacking with someone is we'll talk about in gameplay where you can bump each other, but that's it.
Yeah, and even that can be positive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I on this, I mean, the theme, I like the art. It does. I like the fact that the Viking ships, you can build them up and increase the strengths of them.
Well, I think this game does pretty well mechanic-wise, fitting the theme.
Yeah.
So a lot of times these layered-on games, the mechanics don't necessarily fit the theme, but in this case, it kind of does.
Yeah.
So I think that's a bonus.
Yeah, I think so too. So as far as theme, I'm probably going to give it a 7 as well. I don't think it's, just screams Viking, but it's also, it does make sense with the gameplay, and the art is pretty decent. It's not, again, going to wow you, but it's nice.
I think I'm just going to be a little smidge higher. I think I'm going to do a 7.5 because, again, the mechanics fit the theme pretty well. And then the fact that the boats are kind of cool, I like those. That's a little unique. And then the artwork is better than decent. So I think I'm a little bit higher.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about the rulebook. So the rulebook has no cover. It is 24 pages in length. And it does have a nice component listing showing you pictures and telling you how many of each component you have. The setup is numbered and it's very clear. It's got a big picture of the board and tells you where everything goes. Setup is not difficult as far as there's a lot to get out, but it's not if you follow the instructions, there's no confusion on how to set it up. Then it's got the player board set up. Also, again, the same kind of deal. You got a picture, got shown exactly where everything goes. They got variant rules for 2 to 3 players versus 4 player. Basically, you get 2 dice that you're going to be basically managing if you're playing less than 4 players. That lets you spread your beer out and move in your movements. The gameplay goes through, there's basically 2 types of actions, which we'll go through when we get to gameplay, but you use a dice for one, and you're going to use your free actions during the course of your turn. And then at the end of the round is when everybody has made a complete lap around the movement track. It goes into detail about each of your free actions you can take, the dice actions you can take, the different whatever spaces you trigger, your trade actions or your battle raids they call them, and then goes into final scoring and then some variant rules. Some of the variants will allow you to basically draft for the starting tiles and stuff like that.
And then you got a glossary in the back, which was very useful.
They numbered all the cards, and you had to look up, and it tells you what all the cards did. Some of the tiles were not.
Not all the stuff is in there, and that part was a little, I guess, not really frustrating, but it was a little confusing because they did like a generic blurb, and so then you kind of had to read into that what some of the cards not listed would mean.
Yeah.
And so that part was a little frustrating. That could have been a little bit clearer, but I think other than that, the rulebook did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lengthy read, but
It
the
was,
font is a good size. 24 pages isn't outlandish.
No.
And some of that is just initial setup.
And, another bonus is we always talk about cheat sheets, if that's a bonus or
Yeah.
not. And I think it was useful. It's tiny, but it lists all your free actions, which is very useful to remember. And then it talks about in-game scoring on the backside.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very useful little tool.
Well, when you say talks about it, it's all iconography.
Right, it's all iconography, but
it's a reminder.
But it's a reminder, and it's easy to understand.
Yeah.
So I think it was very useful.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and probably give the rulebook an 8. I
Okay.
think it does a
I
pretty
think
good
it's
job.
fair.
All right, so let's move on to gameplay. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to get your player board set up, and you're going to get dealt or draft, depending on which variant you play, these tiles that are upgrade tiles. You have 3 different positions on your boat that can be upgraded, your sail, and I guess on your fore, your
The
aft.
head and the keel of the ship.
Yeah, and then you have 3 rune stones that you will get at the beginning of the game, one of which you will get to put into play for free at the
Right.
start of the game to give you kind of a guide as far as scoring. Those rune stones are all for scoring at the end of game.
And they're pretty powerful.
They can
I mean,
be,
I mean, mine was like one of the lower scoring ones, and it was still 16 points.
Yeah.
But I had some that went upwards of 22.
Yeah, so depending on your strategy, they may be more difficult to achieve based upon some of the upgrades you've got. So
Right.
that's one of the problems. I think drafting is the way we'll probably play in the future because of the fact that maybe you can have a better chance of setting up combos, because just getting them dealt randomly, you could get into a situation where you get a bad combination. Not that
Sure.
you can't achieve them still, it's just
It just
gonna
makes it harder.
Make it harder.
Yeah.
So you're also going to have a card that's dealt to you that is also drafted in the variant that will give you your turn order and your starting resources that you're going to get. And those starting resources could be silver, could be pelts, could be gold,
Could be cards.
could be cards, which are ones that you can use to help potentially upgrade, or actually give you perks that are towards those upgrades. So there's beer, which will help you reset your beer levels, which is always important in this game.
It is.
The sail, which is going to help you move your boat faster, and the soldier one, which will help you develop or get more soldiers on or Vikings on your boat.
Or heal them.
Yes. So you'll have some combination of that, and then some also you're going to have what we call donuts or bagels, which are provisions, and those are going to determine your capability of moving on the board your ship.
Yeah, assuming you don't have any other upgrades, it's one bagel, donut, whatever, is equal to 1 movement.
Yeah. So they're forever going to be called bagels here
Pretty
because
much.
Adam
called them
Adam
bagels.
called it first,
Everybody
so I saw
laughed,
it.
and then it got stuck.
Yeah. So, but yeah, each space you move is going to cost you 1 provision or bagel. And you're going to go. Each space you move to on the board is a free action, but you can only move your boat 1 time. So
Right.
you can choose as many spaces you want to move, but you can.
That's it.
Yeah, you only get
And
to
you
move
do
one.
it at the beginning or at the end, right?
Yeah, anytime you want during your turn, beginning or end. And every space pretty much on the board you move to, there's a few exceptions, but for the most part, there's something at most every space. Whether it be a raid tile that you can collect.
Which are these red ones.
Yeah, and they give you have to have a specific strength in Vikings to defeat them, but you can go ahead and claim them in advance of that. Then you have trade tiles, which work similar to them, but in the case of the trade ones, you have to pay trade goods, being the pelts and the silver, potentially
Or
gold.
Mm-hmm.
The gold acts kind of like a wild in this game, so a lot of times you'll be using gold as a surrogate pelt or silver.
Or even movement.
Yeah, or you can trade it in, to get additional beer or additional provisions if you need. So that's basically the different things you could get as resources at the beginning of the game. Everybody's going to start down here, presumably in Iceland, Finland, Norway, Sweden, somewhere in that vicinity. Somewhere in Scandinavia.
Yeah, there's no names.
Yeah.
So that are real. It's not real world names, at least to the best of my knowledge. I don't recognize any of the names.
And the neighboring countries definitely don't look familiar.
So either way, they have names and they sound very Viking-ish.
Well, they do have little cities.
Yeah.
Well, here's London.
Okay.
So
evidently,
maybe it is because I guess this way this does look like
That's
England in
true.
that direction. So it's just facing the different direction. So
Okay. Well, interesting.
yeah. So the Viking town of London. So yeah, but you're gonna move. You can move before or after your turn, but the most important thing is you are going to move your die. And at the beginning of the game, you're going to get a predetermined amount of beer based upon turn order as well. And again, whoever has the lowest number is going to be furthest in the back, which by default means whoever's furthest in the back of that path gets to move first. Now there is a starting board that you'll shuffle these and randomly choose one to put on the board. These are also two-sided, so you can vary it. But you're going to start on one of these spaces, and when you move, you have to move off of that starter board on your first turn. So you can't move further down the board and take the action. You have to get completely off the board, off of the starter board on your first action. And then you can go as many spaces as you want, but everything you bypass is a potential action you're giving up. But then again, you aren't going to have enough beer because any space has a number on it. You have to pay the beer to take that action.
And you have to weigh if you need to do that action really bad, because if you don't go there, someone else could go there and block you from doing that action.
Yeah, you did that to me many, many times.
He still won by 2 points though.
Yeah, it was close though. You gave me a good run for it. So yeah, you're basically you're going to choose the optimal actions that you can take, and there's kind of like a refueling station, if you will,
about halfway point.
Yeah. But there you can get more provisions or more beer, but there's not enough spaces for everybody to get them.
There's only 3.
Right.
And it's a 4-player game. So there was a couple of times where it's like, do I want beer so I can do more actions, or do I want bagels so I can get more movement?
Yeah.
And you couldn't do both unless it timed out perfectly. And that happened to me one time.
Yeah. So you can get a perfect situation where you're in the back. And if
everybody speeds forward to where you can literally do that several times in a row, which is sweet.
But it's very rare.
Yeah, it only, like I said, it only happened for me once. So, I don't know if it happened for you at all.
No, it never did. But I had an upgrade.
You had a lot of cards that kept giving you beer, though.
Well, I had an upgrade on my ship that anytime I landed on an upgrade space, I could get a free provision. So I didn't have to visit the provisions as often because I could get that for free. So I just had to restock my beer quite often. But at the beginning, I did get a lot of the beer cards, which then would recycle my beer for me. Which became super important because I got a lot of upgrades that cost me beer to do them. But basically you're going around trying to upgrade your ship. You're trying to build up your trade and your raid steps, because that is how you upgrade a lot of your abilities. Not to mention they're worth a lot of points at the end of the game. Matter of fact, the trade ones, you can have up to 6 of them, and at the end of the game you square how many.
That's how I score the majority of my points.
So
I was able to get all 6 of them, and I was the only one to do that. And I was 4 points away.
Yep. So you get 36 points just
from doing that. And plus, each one's worth points too. So I got points ranging from 6 being or 4 all the way up to 10.
Yep. Now, the raid, on the other hand, you don't get any points at the end of the game, but each one of those is worth a lot more points than the trade ones. And you also get kind of a surrogate for that, because the strength of your Vikings that you build up on your ship, you get that in points at the end of the game. So you can have up to 6 strength and 5 positions on your boat. So you could get 30 points from those. Not to mention it's worth a lot more points on raid.
There's actually 6. There's 6 spots.
No, it's 6 for the red, but you're counting the Vikings. There's only 5 spots for the Vikings.
So you're getting points for the raids themselves, and then up to 30 for the number of Vikings.
So that can pay off even bigger than the yellow, if you think of it that way. Then you've also got your rune stones, which you can get up to 3 on. You got one, like as we mentioned, for free at the beginning.
And then if you do certain things, they all have requirements.
Yeah.
And so if you meet the requirements, then you can either get a rune stone or the upgrades to your ship.
Yeah.
And those are worth points too.
Yeah.
So
the
there's lots of scoring.
And then, but to get the runes, it costs you a lot of resources.
It really does.
Like 5.
It costs 5 resources for each rune stone.
So, probably early in the game is not great to do that, but as you start planning out your strategy around those, you might come back and want to get those in before the end of the game.
And it's a very tight game. So like
Yeah.
I said, I was either very low on beer or I was very low on the bagels. So I was very limited in a lot of things that I could do. So it takes a lot of planning. Planning is the key thing in this game.
Yeah. I will say that while there's a lot of ways to score, they're all tied together, because once you get past the runes, the trade, and the strength of your Vikings, it's all basically bonus points for any leftover resources after that. So those three are the big scoring mechanisms.
Yeah, and then even upgrading both the rating and the trade gives you additional bonuses as well, not just what you get for victory points. Like it gives you more beer, or it gives you more bagels, or it gives you like I unlocked the map action. I think you and I were the only ones I think that did that. And the map action unlocks 2 sections of the board that's the only way to get there. Yeah. And that's some of the biggest scoring in the game for an individual.
Well, actually, no, that's not true. I don't think they took advantage of it. Caleb's got 4, and I think Miranda did at the end too.
I think you're right, but we were the only ones
that took advantage of it. Yeah. So you really there's a lot of ways to play this game, but they still feel like there's only 3 major scoring categories.
And you did a little bit of both. Where I focused mainly on trade.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'd have to play this a couple times to say if that's, which is the best way to play the game.
Yeah.
I think it does reward multiple playthroughs, which is great in a board game.
Yeah. I mean, I've played this and enjoyed it both times I've played it significantly. In both times I've come out saying I could have done this better.
Right.
Even though I won this game, I was like, I know I messed up here.
Yeah.
I know I messed up there. Because to try to play this optimally, you're going to have to know. Basically, you're not just playing yourself; you're playing your competitors.
Sure, that's the planning aspect.
As far as where you think they're going to take their actions.
And that's the tension of the game: is if me blocking you, or he's like, "I hate you, Robert," and so I don't think he meant it, maybe. But either way, as far as I know. But that's the tension of the game: is like I go somewhere, and then that space is basically locked up until I move.
And, I did hate you.
Oh, same, same here. But that's the real tension of the game, and that's the part I kind of liked it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Because there was a couple times where I wanted to go somewhere and I couldn't because Miranda or you or Caleb, somebody blocked me.
Yeah,
I couldn't go there.
I find myself liking that whole mechanic of the person who's furthest back going first in games. That when there's more to it than like patchwork.
Sure.
When I think that's a mechanic that has become stale if it's done by itself, but incorporated into games.
And I like it too because if you do it right, you can do multiple actions in a row, which is really nice. And there's even some cards that allow you to go backwards so that then you can go forwards again. Yeah, which is even better.
Which I've never seen in either game I got to play. So.
I got to take advantage of it once. Miranda got a really good one. I got to do it go back 2 spots, and that really helped her out.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely some really good upgrade cards in the decks. And, some of the movement ones are really powerful, too.
I had a really neat movement sale where for every 2 bagels, I can move anywhere on the board. Yeah. Which is very powerful.
Yeah, and so some of the sale ones are really powerful. Like, I had one where I had to spend 2 beer, but as a free action, I could take one of the things that's a higher cost action on the board, which is doing the raid or the trade action for free.
That's awesome.
But I had to collect the tiles still.
Right, but still, I mean, once you get there, it really unlocks a lot of options.
Yeah, so it's really neat. There's so many powerful, like Miranda had the sale that I had last time where any space you move to was maxed at 1 cost of beer, so it didn't matter if it said 3 on the board, you're only paying 1.
That's pretty sweet.
Every one of them's kind of broken. So I like when everybody can get equivalent broken powers that just give you that extra Marco Polo style.
Yeah. So that's very cool.
Yeah, as far as rating on this one, I think I'm probably an 8.5 right now.
I was thinking the same thing. 8.5 right now might grow.
Yeah.
Even a little bit higher if I can play it a couple more times and kind of grow into it and kind of really figure it out.
Yeah. So that's our thoughts on Karvi. If you've got a chance to play it, then let us know what you think. If you haven't, do you even know about this one? Because it's kind of slipped under the radar. I
had no idea until I came over.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, cool.
So let us know what you think down there below. Or if you are a Viking, go ahead and let us know that too.
Yeah. Or even a video
Yeah.
of you as a Viking playing a Viking board game. That
Yeah.
would be awesome.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well,
Just don't stab anybody.
yeah. Until next time, try to not to invade another country, and we'll see you here.
Bye.
Bye.
No pillaging, Randy.